Well, Sean, thank you for your time. It's nice to see you again here at the ASPAC conference in Singapore. You are a Washington National Tax Partner with KPMG in the United States, out on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You're also the global leader of our transfer pricing team's dispute resolution services practice.
Exactly.
That's a mouthful. I know that you held a very interesting global webcast last week. What were some of the big things that came out of that?
Yeah, we had over 500 companies join this webcast, and just as a sort of a part of this, we conducted a little survey just to find out, check the pulse of what was happening in controversy. And I thought what was very interesting is that 2/3 of the companies on that webcast reported that they were seeing increased audit activity. And nearly half were finding that they had multiple audits in more than 5 countries around the world. That's a lot of activity. And we spent a fair amount of the webcast talking about just how you manage that. How do you stay in front of it? How do you make sure that you're calculating your FIN 48 and making sure that you're meeting all the deadlines you need to do? But the other thing that we were able to uncover is just some of the trends that the governments are using. And one of the things is this new DEMPE, this idea of the IP substance, intellectual property kind of research and risk management. That acronym is now called DEMPE. And what we've seen is that although the governments rolled this out with the OECD in 2015, perhaps not surprisingly, they've begun applying this on a rollback basis for companies back in 2010, 2012.
Really?
Yeah, so this has become a really important trend for companies to be very sensitive to. That they trying to make sure that they can paint their story around how they've got their substance, and they're controlling their risks and their intellectual property and the R&D development. Where are the people who are responsible for that? And governments are very much using that to set up some very large adjustments. We heard about 2 of these that took place in Sweden with over 2 billion USD adjustments coming in. Very, very unfair, I would say, in many ways, because these are older years that who could have known that this was the way the world was going to change.
That's really fascinating. So really applying like a rollback, even though the rules didn't exist back then. This is how we're going to do it. So that clearly has big implications for clients that have open statute years and haven't even thought about this. It must be a big thing to take into account.
Exactly.
So what are you advising clients here while we're in Singapore to do about that?
Well, I think they're needing to take some stock of where their prior substance was, and clearly also think about managing it on a go-forward basis. A number of companies are entering into APAs, and a part of the APA process can be these advanced pricing agreements, can be a rollback, and so you can actually take into account both the future, present and the future, but take a look back and settle out some of this prior years. We also asked companies about their activity around APAs, and about 60% said that they had not done it, but 40% either had an APA or were thinking about doing an APA. So, and that was a fairly high number from my experience. So I think that's another way in which companies are managing, and particularly where areas of in ASPAC, Japan, Korea, Australia, all have had a long history of APAs. But China has recently jumped into this in an important way, because they've increased their staffing to enable more companies to actually access the program effectively. And then India, opened up their program about 5 years ago, and it's been quite a success with a number of companies. Dozens and dozens of companies coming in there, particularly for unilateral APAs. So some of the developments that we're seeing, and we're expecting to have some very important conversations with our clients here to learn more about what is on their minds.
So just fascinating, Sean. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
As always, Rodney.